أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله وكفى وسلام على عباده الذين اصطفى ولا سيما سيدنا محمد المصطفى صلى الله تعالى عليه وعلى آله أهل الوفاء ورضي الله عن أصحابه أهل الصفا وعمن بآثاره مقتفى واهتدى. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله صلاة ترضيك وترضيه وترضى بها عنا يا رب العالمين. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وآله في الأولين وصل على سيدنا محمد وآله في الآخرين وصل على سيدنا محمد وآله في الملأ الأعلى إلى يوم الدين. اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما وعملا وحالا في الدين. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد صلاة ترضيك دائما يا رب العالمين وترضى بها عنا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم أنت ربي لا إله إلا أنت، خلقتني وأنا عبدك وأنا على عهدك ووعدك ما استطعت، أعوذ بك من شر ما صنعت، أبوء لك بنعمتك علي وأبوء بذنبي فاغفر لي فإنه لا يغفر الذنوب إلا أنت. اللهم اغفر ذنوبنا واستر عيوبنا وارحمنا ولا تؤاخذنا. وصل ربنا على سيدنا محمد كنز الهدى وإمام الورى وعلى آله وصحبه وأزواجه وسلم تسليما كثيرا. We left last week with talking about the Muraqaba, and obviously al-Muraqaba is among the most important things. طبعا Muraqaba means that you do Muraqaba of, you observe. And we talked about al-Muraqaba by definition is the Prophet ﷺ's hadith sahih that came, hadith Sayyidina Umar radiyallahu ta'ala anhu wa ardah, where al-Mustafa sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, al-ihsan an ta'bud Allah ka'annaka tarah فإن لم تكن تراه فإنه يراك. Ihsan is that you worship Allah as if you are seeing Him. If you are not seeing Him, He is seeing you. He's telling you, then you need to understand that He is seeing you. If you don't see Him, you need to understand that He is seeing you. When you understand that He is seeing you, it means you are observing Him. That's Muraqaba. Now obviously al-Muraqaba is the Muraqaba of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which means you are observing Him subhanahu wa ta'ala while you are trying to get close to Him. So this whole path in the dunya that you are with, you're supposed to be trying to get closer and closer and closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, whether through your ibadat, whether through your mu'amalat, whether even through the halal things that you do throughout the day. The purpose of it ought to make you closer to Allah. We talked earlier today the difference that the ibadah, the objective of ibadah is taqwa. If ibadah does not yield taqwa, then there's a problem with that ibadah. Ya ayyuhan nasu u'budu rabbakum alladhi khalaqakum la'allakum tattaqun. الذي خلقكم والذين من قبلكم لعلكم تتقون. طيب. So al-Muraqaba, which means usually again حضور القلب, the presence of the heart with Allah. Your heart is present with Allah. That's Muraqaba. Yani in your salah, your heart is with Allah. Not your body is in the salah, but your heart is somewhere else. In the siyam, your heart is with Allah. Hatta in the zakah, your heart is with Allah. Your mu'amalat with other people, talking to other people, your heart is with Allah. So you're present with Allah That presence is called Muraqaba. In other words, you're observing yourself, that you are present with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that's obviously very, very important. That's the beginner stage. We talked about that the other time. So I'm just trying to sort of start from where we left off. Then we go to the middle level of Muraqaba, and that is actually not that you observe Allah, that you are present with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You observe that Allah is watching you. So different. First you observe that you are present with Allah. This one you observe that Allah is looking at you. There is a difference. One, you observe that you are observing that Allah knows that, or you observing you are present with Allah. The other, you are observing that Allah is looking at you this very minute, this very time, this very second, and that second never finishes because He's always looking at you. All right. Surely, the difference here is when you observe that you are present with Allah, there's still you. When you are absorbed in observing that Allah is looking at you, you're moving a little bit away from you. Right? Does that make sense? Okay. So basically, from being present in your muraqabah and the first level to being absent from yourself in that muraqabah, for you are absorbed in the one you are trying to observe or observe. You are absorbed in observation of the one you are trying to observe. So you're no longer with you. You are observing that you are present with Him. No. You are observing that He is looking at you. He's looking at you, subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, and with that, why is that important for the salik, or for the people who are going to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, for the murids, for the people who they have that irada of Allah Jalla Jalaluhu? Because it makes you, if you are observing, He's looking at you. Now, if you're observing you observing Him, is that subject to change? I mean, does that fluctuate? Sometimes you're there, sometimes you're not there. If you observe that He's looking at you, is His looking at you subject to change? No. What does that do to you? It's supposed to help you with what? With al-i'tirad, or objections. Objections come either in thoughts or other things. What does that mean? So, evil thoughts, bad thoughts, wrong things come, and you know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is looking at you. You don't want that to happen. You don't want to harbor anything that's wrong or evil when Allah Jalla Jalaluhu is looking at you. If anyone who sins when in closed doors, behind closed doors, usually people nowadays are more belligerent. But those people who sin usually behind closed doors, when no one sees them, is what I mean. If they bring in their understanding, if they're already in that level where they realize that Allah is always looking at them, and they observe that Allah is looking at them, they cannot sin. Alright. So, therefore, what that does to you also is when you realize that you're observing that Allah is looking at me, you also abandon lots of objections on Him that you have internally. He did not give you what you asked. So usually some people, they're displeased with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Why didn't I get that? I wanted to get that job so badly, and I made so much dua, and I prayed extra 2 rak'ah, and He still didn't give me. I did extra this, and He still didn't give it to me. as if he's supposed to give you just because you do that. You're not doing that because it helps you. You're doing that as a favor so he can give you a favor back. Now, obviously, this is a wrong understanding. Understanding, having muraqabah of Allah, that He subhanahu wa ta'ala is looking at you, would help you avoid these kinds of objections. Because how dare you object and He's looking at you? You are directly under His care subhanahu wa ta'ala. Alright, and the difference between also the first level of muraqabah and this level of muraqabah is because in the first level of muraqabah, the person is still in they feel themselves, they still feel their thoughts, they feel that He's present with Allah, and they feel all these things. In the second, they're more absorbed into observing that Allah is looking at them, and therefore there's nothing left of them in and within themselves to look into, but what's left is only to try to absorb all that's coming to them rather than from them to Him subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that's important because you see the point is that one moves anyway on these issues one after the other until they come to the advanced level. And the advanced level is first we were doing observation, muraqabah, that we are present with Allah. And then we did muraqabah, that Allah is looking at us. And now you do what? You do muraqabah from muraqabah. Muraqabah from muraqabah. Why? You're not supposed to be absorbed in the muraqabah itself. You're supposed to be with the one you're observing, not the observation. So you lose the observation in the witnessing of the one you are observing. Now, and obviously, again, that's among the things that are very, very important. Again, these things, people go little by little through it, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala takes us there. We go from the muraqabah to the glorification or the rank or the station of glorification of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Obviously, the glorification is a couple of kinds. Number one, the glorification of Allah, and the glorification of that which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asked us to glorify. Alright? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is azim. You gotta glorify that. And also Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asked us in the Quran by saying, وَمَنْ يُعَظِّمْ حُرُمَاتِ اللَّهِ وَمَنْ يُعَظِّمْ شَعَائِرَ اللَّهِ. On those ayahs, one whoever glorifies these hurumat, sacred sanctities of Allah, things that Allah made sacred, if you glorify that, if you glorify the sha'a'ir of Allah, these things are important. Alright. So this hurma, or observing the sanctity, I don't want to think observing as muraqabah here, but just the sanctity. Why is the sanctity important? Because if you realize that something is sacred, it becomes difficult for you to violate it. Right? Usually, right? Remember, you are in a battle with the nafs. The nafs wants you to go. Do it. So, in order to sort of battle the nafs, what do you put in your nafs? وَمَنْ يُعَظِّمْ حُرُمَاتِ اللَّهِ. This is hurmat. Allah made stealing or lying haram. Now, I can lie and make myself be perceived better in the eye of the other person, but then I am violating a hurma, something sacred Allah asked me not to violate. The more you glorify that understanding, the less you're willing to actually violate it. It's a crime. Why am I going to go through all this and be subject to punishment and accountability, and eventually it's not really going to make me be better in the eyes of others? And anyway, who cares about the perception of the others anyway? إِنَّكَ مَيِّتٌ وَإِنَّهُمْ مَيِّتُونَ. You are dead and they are dead. And you are dying and they will die. Makes no difference. Why do you care about the perception of people who are dying anyway, when what you need to be caring about is how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sees you, not how the slave sees you. The slave change every day. If there's anything consistent about how people see you, is what? Change itself. Change. Don't you hear Sayyidina Ali Amir al-Mu'mineen radiyallahu ta'ala anhu wa ardah saying, مَا تَرَكَ لِيَ الْحَقُّ مِنْ صَدِيقٍ? Haqq left me no friends. If there's anything changing about people, is change. That's what people do. Change. والخلق. الخلق is like that anyway. إلا ما رحم. Change. فأنت why do you want to be attached to that which changes, and you don't want to be attached to that which is not subject to change? الحي القيوم سبحانه وتعالى. So therefore, this ta'zeem of the hurma, or ta'zeem of the sha'air, glorification of things that are sacred, is important. And that's obviously on 3 levels. Again, I said the reason for that is the philosophy behind this for the ulama of suluk and tazkiyya, all these things, is because it aids you in beating the nafs in this battle. The nafs wants you to violate, and it's making it so easy for you. What is it? It's just a lie. Everybody lies, you're not the only one. And it's a small lie, or it's a white lie, or it's a yellow lie, it's a black lie. I don't know what the difference between all these colors, but anyway, you know, we color lies as well. And then not only we color them, we give them sizes. We say this is a big lie, or this is a small lie, or this is a little lie, that's a fat lie. So even these things, we go into these things, I mean, we don't have these classifications. We don't have this classification. A lie is a lie. A lie is a lie. Okay, I'm just taking that example. If you understand the meaning of the ayah of Allah, وَمَنْ يُعَظَّمْ حُرُمَاتِ اللَّهِ, Allah said, he or she who glorifies the sanctities Allah made. Allah made it haram and made that it's sacred. You can't violate that territory. It's not what you're trying to violate. It's who made it inviolable. It's not the problem necessarily with the act itself. The nafs might tell you it's a small thing, it's not going to get you anywhere. It's not about that. It's about who made it inviolable, who sanctioned it as not subject to violation. You're not supposed to violate it. That's the problem that you're going to have to face, not actually the thing itself. Alright, so first, obviously, the first level in this, for the salik to Allah and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us and you among them, na'am, is ta'zeem al-amr. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asked us to glorify His commands and His prohibitions, right? إِنَّ اللَّهَ يَأْمُرُ بِالْعَدْلِ وَالْإِحْسَانِ وَإِيتَاءِ ذِي الْقُرْبَى وَيَنْهَى عَنِ الْفَحْشَاءِ وَالْمُنْكَرِ وَالْبَغْيِ يَعِظُكُمْ لَعَلَّكُمْ تَذَكَّرُونَ. Allah orders you with what? Adl, ihsan. Shuf adl. First adl. It's not easy. People always expect others to treat them with justice, but they're not willing to look at themselves with an eye of justice. It's difficult. What do you mean? Let me give you my side of the story. Adl. Ihsan, not only adl, but ihsan. To do good when others are not doing good. وَإِيتَاءِ ذِي الْقُرْبَى, and being kind to those of kin. And all humanity is those of kin to us, on a larger level. وَيَنْهَى عَنِ الْفَحْشَاءِ وَالْمُنْكَرِ, and He prohibits from what? Vulgarness. فحشاء. النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم لم يكن فاحشا ولا متفحشا. The hadith is sahih. This vulgar and this vileness. وَالْمُنْكَرِ, wrong. وَالْبَغْيِ, transgression. So He ordered us. We're supposed to do good, and we're supposed to avoid evil, in general, let's say, right? Alright, very good. Very nice. الْأَمْرُ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ وَالنَّهْيِ عَنِ الْمُنْكَرِ. Alright, Allah ordered us to do that. So they say in this station of observing the sanctities of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the hurumat of Allah, when you do this, when you do the command and when you avoid the prohibition, you don't do it out of fear of punishment, nor out of asking or hoping in reward, nor out of showing to others or showing off to others. So three things. Not for fear of punishment, nor out of greed or ambition in reward, nor you do these things because that's what people do and that's what everybody like me to do, so I'd like to also do it because that's nice. So that means you're showing off, you're doing out of show off to others. They say why? They said because all these things you're doing it for the nafs, for your very nafs that you're trying to fight and sort of trying to settle with. How so? For example, if you do it out of fearfulness of punishment, you keep telling yourself, look, nafs, why are you doing this? If you do it, you're going to be punished. You're going to be in pain. You're going to be in this. You're going to be in this. So therefore, your glorification to the nafs is what? You glorifying the punishment to the nafs. You're telling the nafs, the punishment is grave. Fear that punishment. And the point is, you're actually supposed to move from fearing the creation to fearing the creator. All right? Or, let me say this, from glorifying the creation, or from glorifying this thing to glorifying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Why? Because when you glorify Allah, you glorify what Allah asked you to do. When you glorify Allah, you glorify what Allah forbade you from doing. All right. So that's very important in the sense, I am not saying that one does not, on a complete level, does not worship Allah, asking, hoping in His reward and fearing His punishment. But remember, asking for whose reward? His. Before the reward, there's His. Don't forget that. Not asking for reward, asking for His reward. Don't forget the His before the reward. And don't forget the His before the punishment. Don't see the reward and then punishment and not see Him. You're missing the whole point. Similarly, they said, so why is that? They said, because that he's a slave of the nafs, of his own nafs, of his own self. Why? Because he says, he's just fearful on the pain that the nafs will sustain if it violates. So, he's still subservient to the nafs. They said not even doing that for hope in reward, for that would be a bad slave. Why? They say a bad slave is the one who works as long as his master gives him. Once his master stops giving him, he'd run away or he will stop serving. A good slave is the one who serves out of the love to his master. And that is only applicable to Allah, to the sense. Only applicable to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Why? Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala huwa Rabb. He is the Lord that created everyone, and He is the one that capacitated everyone, sustained everyone, gave everyone, etc., etc. So, in other words, the true slave does not work to ask for reward from his master. If his master gives him or his master doesn't give him, the true slave is always at the doorstep of his master. He doesn't leave that. Even if you were to kill him, he wouldn't leave that. He's not going there because he's forced to. He's not trying to get close to Allah because he's forced to. is trying to get close to Allah because he loves to. And there's a difference, obviously, again, between those who do it because they get paid for it, and those who, and therefore those people who just worship for that, the minute something happens to them, they start again showing, or not showing, having internal displeasure with Allah. Is this pleased with Allah? Why is this? Why me? Why me? Some people say, why me? And then they start being suggestive to Allah as to that which is better for them. How do you know what's better for you? You know, these things are always objections on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as well. Anyway, so that's the second thing. So they want to move you in the training of suluk to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They want to move you to worship Him because He is worthy of worship, whether He gives or deprives. To be close to Him because He's worthy of you being close to Him, whether He gives you what you want or deprives you from what you want. Also, obviously showing off. Lots of people do lots of things because showing off. Not necessarily showing off in the sense of I'm doing this so they can see I'm great. That's one aspect of showing off, no. Another aspect, I'm doing this because everybody does that and I don't want to be odd. And it's a good thing to do anyway. The intention is not with Allah. The intention is what? This is customary. That's what people do. But remember the hadith of Sayyidina Umar, the first hadith of Bukhari. What is it? إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّةِ. Lots of people do deeds, and sometimes good deeds. And their niyyah is because, well, that's what everybody's doing. Not because I want to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and that's what pleases Him and I want to do it for Him. Because the niyyah itself is a amal. Amal qalbi, it's an action of the heart. You bring this intention in your heart, you're directing your heart a different direction. Instead of, this is what everybody is doing, what do you do now when you're bringing this niyyah, Ya Allah, I'm doing this for you. It's a good deed. I know that there's people who want me to do it, but I'm doing this for you. What are you doing now? You're trying to direct your heart towards Allah. وَجَّهْتُ وَجْهِي لِلَّذِي فَطَرَ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ حَنِيفًا مُسْلِمًا وَمَا أَنَا مِنَ الْمُشْرِكِينَ. I'm not the mushrikeen, in the sense, those who associate others with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Why? You're doing something good, you're going to visit somebody. Somebody went to the hospital and you want to go visit him. And the reason is because Ahmad called you, says, hey, let's go, he's our friend, we have to go see him in the hospital. Take 1 second only. Say, I'll call you back. Shh. Ya Allah, bismillah, alhamdulillah. In your heart, Ya Allah, I want to do that for you. Not because Ahmad called me. And make it genuinely as such. Call Ahmad, says, I'm coming to do it, let's visit him for the sake of Allah. Correct your niyyah. Because that's an action of the heart. If you start which purifies the heart little by little, you might not feel it right away, but once you start purifying your heart little by little, the whole thing starts changing. It starts with the heart. It doesn't start with the tongue. So therefore, I mean, yeah, there's many things that people do for riya, wal-iyadhu billah. You know, this again, we talked about it earlier today. The goal of the self-realization. I want to realize myself. Don't I have to ask if I'm in that capacity, for example? You want to save people from Ebola, for example. Alright, that's a noble thing. You make that intention for Allah, Allah will reward you. But I mean, if you're a mechanic and you want to go to, you know, somewhere, you know, in Sierra Leone or other places where they're hard hit with, or you know, Liberia where they're hard hit with Ebola or other places, I mean, it's not your place. Maybe you can do other things to help. What's your motive to do this? So these things are important for us so we can, number one, maximize our potential and also have a moment of truth, us and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Where does Allah want me to be? Where can I help best based on what I know and what I can and my capacities? They said those people who are saved from these things are saved from the ibadah of their own selves, in a sense. Yani from worshipping their own selves, because he doesn't want the punishment, because he doesn't want himself to be. He wants the reward because he wants to gain more. It's the self. And he shows or does these things with people because that the perception of people is important, or or the legacy that he wants to leave behind. For who? If the whole dunya is going to perish and going to be folded, this whole dunya will be perished, will be folded and done. You leave legacy for what? What do you leave? The only legacy you leave is your own good deeds. In fact, you won't leave, you'll take them with you. Even better. You won't leave, you'll take them with you. And that's why you saw the Prophet ﷺ, yani when we talk about tawadu, you saw the Prophet ﷺ in his humility, salawatullahi wa salamu alayhi wa alayhi. أَأْكُلُ كَمَا يَأْكُلُ الْعَبْدِ وَأَشْرَبُ كَمَا يَشْرَبُ الْعَبْدِ أَجْلِسْ كَمَا يَجْلِسُ الْعَبْدِ. I sit like the slaves sit, and I eat like the slaves eat, and I drink like the slaves drink. Why do you think he says that? Why do you think sallallahu alayhi wa sallam says these things? Oh, and because it's not about the distances. It's not about the distances that people create today. It's not about the aura that is man-made and fake that people make and enforce. It's not about the entourages that makes people different. Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam could have his entourages, the malaika, let alone the bashar, visible. Maybe if asked Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But people are people, ajib. They only appreciate king-like behavior. They appreciate tyrants. They don't appreciate just people. They look at tyrants and they're glorified in their eyes. If there is humility, that's why they told Sayyidina Ali, and Sayyidina Ali also, you would go to the masjid, Sayyidina Umar, same thing, right? You see him sleeping under the tree. We talked about that so many times. تحت الشجرة, he's sleeping under the tree. Umar ibn Khattab, when he was the Khalifa, not when he was just a normal citizen, then the Khalifa, no entourages, huh? And nobody called him Sayyidina. Today we call him Sayyidina. And they didn't call him Sayyidina. They called him Umar. Huh? Well, Umar said sometime, I was wrong. Umar says, I was wrong. Problem? Problem? Like, and people view that these things are signs of glory, and the people who don't keep distances, that's a sign of weakness and less. That's how they viewed Sayyidina Ali ibn Takhif. He says, he jokes sometimes, he's too simple. They want kings. They want people who have the royal, who enforce, all this royal looks are enforced. And Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam wants you to have the least of that and be with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If you are with Allah, you are the true king. Doesn't matter if people think you're a slave. Doesn't matter if people treat you as a slave, but then you're the real king. Didn't Ibn Arabi said, he did the takhmis of it. Mumadian mentioned that. It says, مَلَذَّةُ الْعَيْشِ إِلَّا صُحْبَةُ الْفُقَرَاءِ هُمُ السَّلَاطِينُ وَالسَّادَاتُ وَالْأُمَرَاءِ. He says the only sweetness in life is in being in the suhbah, in the companionship of the fuqara. What do you mean fuqara? Fuqara means what? Poor? Not really. Sayyidina Uthman was faqir in that sense. Poor to Allah. Whether they have money in their pocket or they don't, it's never in their heart. So they're really faqir, they're really poor, but to who are they poor? They are poor to Allah. He says, هُمُ السَّلَاطِينُ وَالسَّادَاتُ وَالْأُمَرَاءُ. They're the real sultans. Those people, they might be faqir also from money, but they are faqir. You see when Sayyidina Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu, when he went to Bayt al-Maqdis, 3 people sharing the same mule. Him and his servant sharing the same mule. So Sayyidina Umar says, I ride sometime, you ride sometime. And he pulls the mule for his servant. Not tasannu', not to make it or to fake it. No. Sayyidina Umar did not have a designed agenda with entourage like that. No. No. There is no need for these things. He could have brought all the horses or the limousines today and nowadays. Umar comes in the limousine, why not? Oh, Khalifa. Umar shares the mule with his servant. If you sit with Umar, or you sit with Ali, or Abu Bakr, or Uthman radiallahu anhu ajma'in, if you sit with them, you think you're sitting with anybody else. In the description of Dirar to Ali, he says, if you enter, you think he's one of the slaves sitting with them, you don't know which one he is. لكن إذا تكلم, now when ilm comes, فعن مثل اللؤلؤ المنظوم. It comes like the pearls that are of the finest caliber. You can't double do it. You can't do it. There's no copy here. You can copy entourages, make them better. But the content of Ali can never be copied. You can copy dresses and looks and all this magician stuff that Umar did not do. But you can never copy the content of Umar. We understand how it is. And therefore the people of Allah, Ahlullah, when they talk about getting close to Allah, they're talking about not worshipping yourself, but worshipping Allah. Among this is what? That you do these things, you do things, even if they're good. To what? To show off. There's an element of show off in it to the creation of Allah. Nas'al Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because the one who's fearful is trying to protect himself. Why is he fearful? He's trying to protect himself from what? From punishment. So he's enslaved to what? Saving himself. So he's directing himself to it. He's saying, I'm trying to help you. And the same one, the one who's trying to get the reward, is also enslaving himself to it. Why? Because he's continuously enslaved to securing more benefit to it. I want to ensure I get more benefit and more benefit. So he's also observing and indulged into himself. And this person who's always doing things to show other people in one way or another, whether directly, indirectly, light or less, that show other people that he's doing this, he is also trying to, he's enslaved to himself. Why? Because he's enslaved to glorification of himself in the eyes of the others. All right. Therefore, when the nafs dies with mujahada, with the struggle to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when that nafs actually dies or actually has life in it, real life, then that's when you can see. As long as the nafs is there, it becomes a problem. That's why many of the ulama of suluk, they say the best thing that you can sacrifice is the nafs, not killing the self, but then sacrificing the nafs in the sense that it doesn't stop you from getting where you need to get. That's the number one, or that's the middle, the beginning level in obviously the glorification of what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the station of what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made sacred. The second or the advanced level in this, the glorification, this is for the people of Mushahada, not for the people of Muraqaba. Remember, we mentioned that the hadith is actually Muraqaba and Mushahada, right? And what does that mean? And Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said what? Ihsan is that you worship Allah as if you are seeing Him. Is that seeing Him is what? Mushahada or Muraqaba? Seeing is Mushahada. Few people are there. If you are not seeing Him, realize that He is seeing you. That's Muraqaba. You are now doing Muraqaba. Yani if you can't arrive at the level of Mushahada, the least thing you can do is, you get Muraqaba. At least observe it, He's observing you. You can observe Him, at least observe it, He's observing you. Great, very nice. So, therefore, for that was for the people of Muraqaba. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us among them. Allah make us among the people of Mushahada. Now, the people of Mushahada in the advanced, because how do they glorify then what Allah made sacred is, obviously there's a problem. What's the problem? That they don't become daring. That they don't become daring. Why? Some people in Mushahada, they have this maqam or this hal that's called inbisat. Inbisat means open. There's qabd, there's bast. Qabd, bast. Bast is openness. So some people then, obviously, in their advanced levels, and when they are in Mushahada, they are in this hal of inbisat. This hal gives them a daring. They become daring sometimes. Daring in a sense of what? They become daring, so that means sometimes fine loss of adab with Allah. Not gross loss of adab with Allah, fine loss of adab with Allah. There is difference in loss of adab with Allah. Fine or gross. Gross, these people don't get there. But fine things. Fine things. So therefore, that these people who are advanced, among their mission also to do is how to observe the sanctity of Allah, is to make sure that they don't have complete bast, so that they don't become daring in that they don't lose adab with Allah, so they don't say anything from what the secrets of being present or mushahada with Allah. They don't divulge these things. Why? Because the point is not that you become a fitna. You are going to Allah, you are polishing yourself, you are purifying yourself, you have gotten to some hal and some maqam. Very nice. Don't become fitna to the slaves of Allah, preventing them from focusing on Allah and they're focusing on you. Be careful. You're supposed to at best push them towards their Creator, not stand between them and their Creator. Let alone be brighting and shining and trying so that people look at you instead of looking at their Creator. إِنَّمَا نَحْنُ فِتْنَةٌ فَلَا تَكْفُرْ. Like Harud and Marud, they said. They said what? We are fitna. It's a test. Don't commit kufr. Don't be absorbed into looking at us and observing us. You're missing the point. Don't be mesmerized by the hal or the maqam that we have arrived to. You need to go focus on improvement of yourself and go to Allah. Alright. So that's the point, right? So that the people don't get, they always say, once people divulge, they're strict. Once whatever you gain few things and you start, talking to people about them, they're taken away from you. Why? So you don't become a fitna to the people. So, in one aspect, you don't go beyond the adab. In another aspect also, they don't go into what the ulama of suluk call shath. Shath means to excess. Excess. What does that mean? Yani the people who are in mushahada, that you have to realize, you're going up and up and up and up and higher, and your soul is aspiring, and the illumination and the anwar and the asrar are pouring onto your heart. The spiritual capacity is increasing. We've talked about that many times already. And that spiritual capacity is increasing. It means what? You see lots of things happen, etc., etc., etc. Signs, unveiling, kashf, etc. All these things. What happens then? Some people, they lose it. They lose it. They go and say things they're not supposed. They're wrong anyway. They say it because they became intoxicated. Their mind, they have a mental impairment, literally, because of the strength and the flow of spirituality or of anwar and illumination that was poured onto them. They couldn't handle it. It's like a transformer. It's 110. In the US, electricity is 110 volts. You take it with you to India and you put it, it's 220. You burned it. It's not. In India, 220? 220. It's burnt. Our transformer cannot handle this. So that's why, again, these things are gradual. But still, that's just like al-Junayd, Sayyid al-Ta'ifa radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, wal-Hallaj. Right? An example, let me show you. Imam al-Junayd, he says, علمنا هذا مقيد بالكتاب والسنة. يا سلام. Nice. Nice. Our ilm, he says, is framed by the book and the authentic sunnah. He didn't say authentic, but that's what he meant. He said sunnah. وجيد. طبعا يعني if it's not authentic, it's not sunnah. Al-Hallaj, in his state of sukr, so we call it sukr, he's not present, rahimahullah. He says, he used to say, allegedly again, he used to say, Ana al-haqq, I am the haqq. He lost it. No, he was intoxicated in this, that he lost it. It's not something strange, you have it in hadith sahih, where Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam tells us that Allah, inna Allah la ashaddu farhan, Allah is more pleased with you repenting, going back to Him, than the person who was in a desert and he had his camel and he lost his camel in the desert. طبعا, you know, if you lose your camel in the desert, adios. We'll see you on the akhirah. There's no more of seeing in the dunya. Bismillah is done. That's why many of the Bedouins, when they lose their camel in the old days in the desert, they just find a nice place, they dig their own grave and they lay in it. We have stories like that. Then why do you want to be outside? Then why do you want to die on anywhere? No, you dig your own self a nice grave, at least, and you put yourself, you cover everything, almost you're done. You're just waiting for which, when the moment. No, camel is gone. This is how important the camel was. Camel is gone, life is gone. The water is on the camel, food is carried on the camel, weapon is on the camel, everything is on the camel, and even the travel has to be on the camel. So you have no travel, no water, nothing. Anyway. So Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, this authentic hadith is giving us the example of the one who, he says he lost his camel until he realized he's dying. And all of a sudden he sees his camel back. Out of happiness, this man says, Allahumma anta abdi wa ana rabbuk. He says, oh Allah, you are my slave, I am your Lord. He wants to say, oh Allah, I am so happy, you are my Lord, I am your slave. But it didn't come out. It came out the other way. Because sometimes you get intoxicated of being happy, right? You know it. Doesn't happen often lately. Because all these things we have to worry about. News coming here, this, Missouri, Cleveland, Syria, all these things. There's no more. We want to, please, let me pay you, get me intoxicated with happiness. Nowadays it's, anyway. So out of being happy, the man could not say he lost his he was mentally impaired for that temporary point of time. Same thing happens to some people who have that wajd, or that intoxication of being close to Allah, and that their hearts are expanded in a metaphorical way, obviously, and the illuminations and the asrar and the anwar and the secrets are being poured on them. They lose that mind. So al-halak and al-haq. Allah has al-haq. So anyway, they killed him. Shibli says, I drank from the same glass. Abu Bakr Shibli, one of the big old Zuhad or Bada. He says, I drank from the same glass Al-Hallaj drank from, but I woke up, I was sober. Al-Hallaj was drunk. فَصَحَوْتْ وَسَكِرَ الْحَلَّاج. I was in sahaw, he was in mahaw. We need to be in sahaw, Mawlana, not mahaw. Sahaw yani means sober. Mahaw means you're erased, you're not there. Now, anyway. So, remember why? The maqam of the Sahaba radiallahu anhum wa ardahum, those are the masters of the awliya, the masters of the people who are close to Allah, was what? They take the Quran and they take the presence of the Prophet ﷺ, who Jibreel is there, all these things, and their mental and their spiritual capacity is what? Full. ما زاغ البصر وما طغى. Stable. Stable. They can handle. Their spiritual power was strong. They can handle. Like other people, they may not be able to handle. So, for the people who are advanced in then observing hifz al-hurumat or hurumatullah, those people who observe the sanctities of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they observe themselves from falling into either extreme, either lack of adab with Allah, and even in a finer way, or going into excess in other ways. Because obviously, or divulging things, obviously that's lack of adab. Otherwise, you lose that maqam where you're worked so hard to be at. You're going to go back down. All right. Also, for the advanced, the people of Mushahada, they have to observe that they don't get the safety net or feeling. What does that mean? That, I'm already there, it's granted. They don't get this given, it's a given, it's done. I am there. Because they get to a place and they get to a hal where they say, I'm there. Obviously they're supposed to protect themselves from being there at a stage where they think that I'm safe now. Just like what's attributed to Sayyidina Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu or Sayyidina Umar ibn Abdul Aziz or others, that they have said, allegedly, though the saying is authentic in its meaning, regardless of its sanad, that if a caller on the Day of Judgment would call, everybody is in Jannah except one, I would still think it's me. I'm not worthy of going to Jannah. If one of my feet was in Jannah, I would worry whether the other one would be in Jannah. So regardless where you are, and that's what? That's the hadith of Sayyidina Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And that's when he told the Sahaba, none of you would enter Jannah with their deeds, except with what? With the mercy of Allah. Nah? That's the other thing. The third thing before we finish is that the people of Mushahada, they protect their own Mushahada. How so? They protect their own Mushahada, their own witnessing, that they don't think they got the Mushahada because of their ibadah that was pure ibadah, and because of slavery that was sincere. That's a veil. If they think they got closer to Allah because their ibadah was so perfect and their deeds were so sincere, they just lost that. Why? They only got there because of Allah's granting them. It's a hadiyah from Allah. That's why they always say al-hidayah hadiyah. Hadiyah means what? Gift. Gift. What do you think? Why do you think you always say Ihdina as-siratal. Ya Allah, give us this gift of hidayah. Give us this gift. Hidayah is hadiyah itself. Yahdi Allahu li nurihi man yasha. And Yahdi happens to be the same verb of giving hadiyah. Yahdi gives guidance and Yahdi gives gift. Same verb. Therefore, guidance is a gift. If you are there, you make sure that you don't think you got there because of your muscles. You got there because of the gift of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala unto you. So you better now thank Allah more for this realization that He made you realize it's not you who got you there. He made you realize that it's Him who got you there. That by itself is guidance and hidayah. Yeah? And therefore, obviously, with these things, one becomes, inshallah, goes to the level of shukr. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us among them, and make us among those who have the shukr, the maqam of shukr, and maqam of ta'zeem al-hurumat, maqam of mushahada, maqam of muraqaba, whether the maqamat of ahlillah ta'ala. Allah make us among them. Wa sallallahu ta'ala ala sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sallam tasliman kathira. Radiyallahu ala ashabihi wa azwajihi wa anna ma'ahum bi rahmatika ya arhamar rahimin. Questions?